So I have Vedant with me here as always. Vedant, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm good. And my first question would be, did you use social media as a kid?
Yeah, obviously, I think the first social media app that I used was Facebook, like I think most of us. I created my Facebook account when it was pretty early, man. It was like in fourth or fifth, I think, or maybe sometime around that. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, it was around that time. And that was also because a lot of my other friends were on Facebook. And that made me think that I should also create an account. And yeah, that's how I got into
And
social media.
remember the time when social media was just about posting a good picture of yourself and trying to get people
Yeah,
like that picture?
yeah.
How did we go from that to post something so that strangers and unknown people like our videos, and to such an extent that we can say that this is a viral thing that I did. So
I
it's a
think personally for us, it is still that I mean, we just want to post photos or videos or something relatable and hope that people like it. I mean, of course, the main point of social media for a lot of people is getting that validation. So I think a main thing for personally for people is still that. Now professionally, because it offers a lot of other avenues to earn money, the uses have
but
differed.
do you know that people still, like, not still, but people on Instagram, when you say a stranger, maybe the word is wrong, but people still accept follow requests from person you have met once in your life and
Yeah,
is
I am
related or
those people.
knows. Huh?
I am those people. I'm one of those
Yes.
people, but I know
So
you are
how
not
would
one
you,
of those.
so personally as well, when you say that person you want to post something for people, you actually don't know them. So you kind
Yeah,
of know the existence of them because you've seen them once, or you see that, okay, my two of my friends already follow this guy, so like he's not a complete weirdo who is going to f me up if I follow him or let him follow me. And I made a rule, I think a year ago, that I will only accept requests from people I talk with either daily or within a month, or like I have some communication with them. Now, obviously, people who I already followed and people following me since my school days are still there. I didn't unfollow them. But the new requests that come in, it becomes a bit difficult because I don't want to be rude to them because they have seen me or like I have spoken to them, but I have no connection with them in terms of meeting them regularly, like maybe once a year or twice a year, because he's just there to pick the person up, but I don't know him. So I don't know how to not be rude. I'm still figuring that thing out. But I think even personally, I think when we post something, there are a lot of people who we don't actually know to
yeah.
be good people still look at that picture.
There was this thing that I had seen on. I mean, you must have seen it as well. Like we nowadays, if you get 50 likes on your post, people think that, oh, I mean, I just got 50 likes because the
Yeah.
expectation is 100. But if you
Yeah.
actually take that into consideration, it's like in real life, 50 people liking something that we did, and it's such a
Yeah.
huge number that we don't realize that 50 people. But because of social media, that likes or comments, it has become just a number, and we do not actually take into consideration that it's 50 people, that 50 people who have probably commented or
Yeah,
something,
because it's false comparison, right? Because
Yeah.
50 in comparison to 1 million is so
Yeah.
less. And when someone posts something, they aspire to become that. So obviously, then that's going to, like, they're going to compare it to the best thing, which is a very wrong thing to do because you just don't have that kind of access, or you're not interesting enough. Let's be honest, not everyone is very interesting to the extent where millions of people will like them, because it takes a lot to do that.
Even
So, why I asked you though, did you use social media as kids? Because back then I feel that because video wasn't a big thing, because misinformation wasn't like a huge thing, and we could only see content of, and it wasn't called content, it was just called photos of
yeah.
people who we follow. and who we had to send a friend request, and they were our friends on Facebook. And then Instagram came, and then we could follow, but then again we had to accept who is following us and whom to follow, and it wasn't a huge deal. People used to post memes, and I'm sure that misinformation would have been a thing there, but it wasn't this much. So, what do you think happens when people of our age, when we started using social media illegally? Because the age limit was 18. To be honest, it's now pushed back to 16, and we'll come to that. But it was 18, and still we had accounts, and then it was, I think, 13 then. But then, how do you think the difference, taking the difference into consideration, and then how it affects kids nowadays?
Yeah. So I think the main part, as you said, was about posting on Facebook. I remember it was also about playing games
Yeah.
and games like Farmville and stuff, and then maybe challenging your friends. And the uses of social media were pretty limited, and because it was new, not just for people but also for the social media companies back then, they were also kind of figuring it out how to get more users in. And the earlier strategies to keep users hooked on the platforms were limited to letting them get that dopamine boost by just posting, giving them likes, comments, maybe games, and then slowly ads started coming in, and then, as you said, Instagram started coming in. So comparing that time to right now is like a bit difficult, because back then even the l- people on social media was very limited. If you even remember in your earlier days of Facebook, you could actually know how many friends you have and how many people regularly like your posts. But right now, because of the evolution of social media, and the amount of content that we consume nowadays, it has become so extreme that probably the effects that it had on us as 16-year-olds or 14-year-olds back then is way, way different compared to right now, because the amount of once people started realizing how you can misuse these platforms, it started becoming more and more dangerous. So for kids, essentially, right now, I think the main concerns are based on research and everything is, as you mentioned earlier, it is the first of it. It is the comparison part where you compare your 50 likes to probably a million likes. It makes you feel inferior to others. So that is one thing that maybe leaves a lot of kids feeling anxious or feeling that they're not enough, they're not doing enough, they're not that popular on social media. And that is one issue that is also found out in researches. Another is bullying, that we often talk about, like in comments, people straight up say anything, they harass people, they abuse, and there is no sort of moderation or limit to it. And yeah, I think there are a lot of mental health issues also that happen due to the amount of content that people consume, because a lot of graphic and very dangerous content that kids should not be exposed to, even we weren't back in the day, but right now it is very common, is happening on social
And
media.
yeah, I think when we talk about social media, it can't just be Reels or
Yeah.
Instagram, because you have to also consider memes, comments, X, which is formerly Twitter, which is like a very triggering platform. And this trigger word is also important because it is often used in a very, I think, a funny way, or it's like used in a less uh I mean, I don't know. I mean, the gravity of that word is quite huge, but it is used in a lot of lukewarm like situations. Like, oh, why are you getting triggered? Don't get triggered. But actually, the word is very important because because social media algorithms work on that word, because they want people to get triggered, because it's very easy to get angry and type something and get into an online battle. And I think young people, they go through that, and if they post something or if they talk about something, like I think we watched a series called Adolescence, and in that they showed that this girl who was actually murdered by our main character, she used to post under his photographs, incels, Incels means involuntary celibate, like no girl will voluntarily be with you. And she was bullying him, and then that action led to him being embarrassed publicly, and then, obviously committing that action. But and that is a very real thing. So social media comes with that expression, expressing and getting into online fights where people will abuse you, people will abuse your family, people will call you stupid, and that can affect you if you do that more than once. Because if you do it once, that's fine, you know what, you leave it. But if you constantly engage with that kind of thing every day, it then starts to affect your mental health. Research has also shown that more use of social media has led to more isolation in people. So people don't want to have social contact, they will rather sit with themselves and watch reels or
Yeah.
consume social media content. So I think, again, these effects are still understandable in adults, and say that, you know what, as an adult, like, do these things. But when it comes to kids and underage people, it's going to be very difficult for them to come out of it. And another thing, another effect that they have is, one of my relatives came to my house the other day, and he was watching a gamer YouTube channel, and he had like this annoying zoom in zoom out effect. And I'm 25, so I was very annoyed. I'm like, why are you like zooming in, zooming out every single time? And it was very annoying, and I was like getting irritated with that. But then if you look at who his audience is, and these are kids in seventh, eighth, ninth standards, and their attention span, it's very important to keep their attention. So that's why every time he said something, there's going to be a zoom in, zoom out. There's going to be something animated. There's going to be something or there's going to be a transition, and that transition is going to be sparkly and with light, so they're going to get hooked on that video,
I
and they're going
think
to keep on watching.
there was also this one cartoon which was recently mentioned a lot. I don't remember its name, but parents have that had that similar complaint with it, that they do not let their kids watch it. Apparently, a lot of kids do watch it. For
Mhm.
the life of me, I can't remember the name, but
Yeah.
it had a lot of what do you say,
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
transitions and
Yes.
kids, as you said, to keep them hooked. But it also affects their attention span a lot.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think, so we'll come down to some of the solutions that are given by many governments. I think throughout the world there are talks about banning social media for young kids, and I think uh, there is a good argument to that why you should do it, but also there are some other points or better solutions that can take place. But just give us a gist about what the current news is about the government of Karnataka and why they want to ban.
So, yeah, so the government of Karnataka yesterday announced that they are, banning social media for kids under 16. And this comes after Australia became the first country to do it, I think in December or January recently. And a lot of countries after Australia did it, they're considering doing it. Like almost every other country in the world, they're considering doing it. Now, what Australia did, I'll just read it, like I'll just give you a brief of it. So basically, they introduced a nationwide ban on social media for its children who are under 16. This includes a ban on TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Threads, Reddit, all the social media platforms, and even channels like Twitch and Kick. Now, under the law, children under 16, they cannot create new accounts, and the ones who already had existing accounts, they have been deactivated. And the main part of this ban is that instead of punishing uh, parents or kids for if they open an account, the government is actually going to punish the social media companies. So these rules can actually, because of these rules, they can face fines of up to like 50 million Australian dollars, these social media
Mm,
companies. So the pressure is on them do not let kids create accounts.
Yeah.
And how this is done is because we talked about us being on Facebook when we were in school, because the system was not that strict. We could just put any age and we could create an account. But now what they have done is that they have implemented a very strong age verification system. This includes they'll check your government IDs, facial or voice recognition, and your behavioral analysis that will indicate a user's age based on your activity patterns. So the government's basic goal is to just reduce the use of social media, the harmful effects, because I think there is a study which found out that around 96% of children that are aged between 10 to 15 were using social media in Australia, and about 70% of them they were exposed to harmful material. So this includes misogynistic and violent content and
And
even
yeah, and
posts.
that is a completely separate issue, like how
Yeah.
that exposure kind of separates genders and kind of fills up information that they don't receive from schools, but because they consume a lot of content that separates or focuses on the differences between a man and a woman,
Yeah.
their notions about these genders really strengthen because that's the only access to this information they have. So yeah.
So
But
yeah, and
what about Karnataka as well? Like, are they good doing the same thing?
so basically it's like Australia has done this, and all the other countries will probably try to copy their model, because I mean, it makes the most sense to me if you're actually implementing it, that put the pressure on the social media companies and do not
Mm.
punish the parents or the kids, because then if they start punishing the parents or the kids, that just gives a loophole to
Yeah.
the Meta, to the X, that hey, we have done our part, they are not following it. So it just gives them more incentive to do something like this. But if you are putting the pressure on these companies, then that means that they will probably, because Meta actually blocked around like 550,000 accounts of teenagers on in
Mm.
Australia. And another thing is that it does not ban platforms like YouTube Kids, Google Classroom, or WhatsApp. So they have recognized that these platforms are probably essential for
Yeah.
kids to learn or communicate, because a lot of schools nowadays use WhatsApp to communicate with parents. So they see them as educational tools rather than social
Yeah, and I
media.
think yeah, that makes sense, and that absolutely makes sense because like even when you shared the news and that article is horrible, by the way, because there are so many ads in that web page, and I can't actually read it what's written, but yeah, because a lot of educators, because when we talk about social media and its effects, a lot of it is focused on the bad things, but we shouldn't forget that there are good things coming out of it as well, in which in other ways wouldn't have been possible. So a lot of educators actually do a very good thing by teaching kids about science, teaching kids about history, and there's other educators that talk about logical reasoning and other stuff, and it's quite good because they don't receive that honestly from schools. Like you have to be really rich to get an admission into a school that does all of these things, but if it comes
Yeah.
to mid tier, low tier, it's not going to be that. But if a kid can learn, and free access by the way, can learn all of this amazing thing, that shouldn't be done. And that's why I think so when we upload a video on our channel, there's always an option YouTube gives, is this video for kids? So if I tick that, then that means that I have to give a lot of reasons why it is supposed to be shown to kids, and then this video is processed that way. So if we talk about murder, if we talk about molestation and sexual molestation, then this video will not actually qualify because they will look at the context as well. So because now I've spoken these words, if I choose that this video should be shown to kids, they will say that we can't because like you have used these words, and
And
you
I
have
think
talked about
YouTube also
violence.
has
Yeah.
a really good policy. Like if you use words like these, they demonetize your video. Like you can't
Yes.
earn money out of it at times. So that is also another good thing.
Yes. Yeah, and I think but again, like the context is very important, and I think YouTube does that because if you use these words, in a context of educating the public about something, then they don't actually do that. But if you are doing it, which again, the context is making fun, or the context is not really taking these terms seriously or joking about it, or maybe then they obviously demonetize it for sure. And yeah, so YouTube Kids, that's why I think if Meta wants to still go and have kids on their platform, which I feel they don't, because their aim is, I don't think their aim is anywhere to educate the public. Their aim is to just get users to show ads to them. They can actually do Meta Kids, where educators can actually go and talk, and that would be amazing, because you will eliminate all of the bad stuff. Because people, you have to, when you have to show, or when you want to show this a video to kids, there is a lot of, there are a lot of things that you have to pass, and that's where I say that the barrier to post something should be so high that not a lot of people will do it. Even on YouTube, although there is a lot of like shit posting on YouTube, but still, to upload a long video, you still have to get do a title, give the description. You have to choose a lot of options, like is this qualify, does this qualify for I think an American content certificate. Like, you just have to not select it, but there's still like a process
Yeah.
that you have to go through, and then create a channel and upload the banner and all of this stuff. That there are less number of people compared to Instagram. And because if in Instagram, on Instagram, the barrier to post content is nothing. You create a channel, even if you don't have a display picture, even if you don't follow, you don't have bio, nothing matter, you can just upload anything. So that actually then differentiates, and again, the root cause that we talk about so many times, that this has to be addressed. And if the and I think, yeah, even I read the BBC article where they said that the Australian government has not actually banned YouTube Kids. That is actually a good move. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot, because the solution that you gave actually makes the most sense to me, that every platform should have a different version for kids and a
Yeah.
different version for, and that just makes it so easier that kids, because social media has a lot of good uses. Like we talked about the negative effects, but it, as like as we've discussed, it educates kids nowadays a lot. And because of content creation, kids nowadays can actually start, posting stuff online. And I think it's time that we eliminate the whole argument, because a lot, I've heard a lot of people say this, that we grew up without social media and we turned out fine, so then these kids can also, it's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
that's actually not true, because
Yes.
the times have changed. Technology and social media have now become an essential part of life and of everyone's life, and it is going to be the way going forward. And if you're banning something, you're essentially restricting people from accessing stuff that actually could be very useful for them. So I think
And
maybe banning is not the right
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because again, you make an absolutely brilliant point, because a lot of parents will say, and again, like, I have my own experience with this, that, what, he's using too much social media, it's too much screen time. Like, why? The thing then, this comes down to media literacy part as well, that we talk about so often. This generation is growing up with internet and social media, so
Yeah.
it's going to be very difficult for them to enter this world and then not use something that, I think, what, 80% of the population is now using, or 50%, I think, because 4 billion people are on some sort of
Yeah.
social media. So it's going to be that difficult for us. Fortunately, unfortunately, we were born in 2000. 2000, the internet was there, but the accessibility to internet wasn't as much, and you could only have the Ethernet at your home. If you wanted internet for your mobile, then you can have these vouchers, and the internet was actually very, I think, expensive. So you had to ask your parents that, I want internet, and whatever. But then slowly social media came in and we got addicted. But we still knew the life before social media, or
Yeah.
moderation, or social media
Yeah.
in moderation. So
Yeah.
we can actually go back and say, you know what, yeah, I was there. Like there was, my life was something before all of this, so maybe I can return to that. But then for a lot of kids, when they are growing up in this era, it's going to be very difficult for them to imagine not having a phone in their hand. And that phone is designed that way. If you look at Steve Jobs and how he introduced the iPhone, he introduced our finger as the most efficient cursor.
Yeah.
So he said that, why to have a stick? You can actually do it with your hand. And that was the first step of including a device in our body. Now it doesn't feel unnatural to hold a phone. When we hold a phone, it feels a part of our body, because that has been the focus of a lot of companies to do that, because they wanted to sell mobile phones to every single person on the planet. And that's why this happened. And now it's going to be very difficult for someone to not use social media for 16
Yeah.
years, then
Exactly.
get introduced to it, and then completely feel like it completely feel out of options to not do have social media again, because it is addictive. Because alcohol is addictive. If people start taking alcohol, they don't want to leave it. It's the same way. If you start using social media, it's not just on you. The system is designed that way to make you addictive. If you
Yeah.
have anxiety, you go on social media. If you have a bad day, you go on social media. If you want to feel good about yourself, you go on social media. If you want to distract yourself, you go on social media. So because that system is designed that way, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to just
And
not
I think,
be addicted.
and just banning it is like not a solution, because I like pornography is banned in India, but does that mean people in India do not watch it? They still found a way. Even piracy for movies or series is illegal, but does that mean people don't do it? They actually find out ways to do it. So even if you ban something like this, people, even the article that you shared, the BBC one, the kid in it actually talks about that he can still use those apps, and is just that way that if you actually ban something, it actually push it doesn't eliminate it, it just pushes it to go underground behind the official
Yeah.
thing, and it still continues to function because the demand is there. So that is why I liked a lot of the solutions that you suggested, which was creating maybe a kids version of it or implementing media, because the problem is not, as we discussed, it's not social media, because we actually grew up with social media for a little part in moderation and it was not that harmful. So if you actually teach people how to use it in moderation, and if these companies actually may enforce some serious measures to ensure that it does not go out of hand, it can still be done. And I think more than the kids or the parents, the accountability in the end does lie with these metas and the x's and the snapchats to actually make sure that it does not go out of hand. So banning is not going to solve anything. Maybe it's I think it's just the easy way out for the maybe the
Yeah.
government and the
And
people.
yeah, and I think so the solutions that I think of, that I shared with you on the group as well. So firstly, obviously, like, don't ban it, have a different version where the kids can still access it. And then obviously allow parental lock systems that we also had for television. Like we
Yeah.
can't watch it for more than 1 or 2 hours, obviously. Then I think the government should have media literacy programs for kids and parents. So for parents, they have to say that, if you are a parent, this is kind of a very not mandatory but like suggested thing. Every society, go in every society, educate parents about moderation, how kids are using social media, how you can curb it. These are the guidelines that you can use, and then go to each school. And then for schools, you can make a mandatory program of media literacy where every single month you need to have one session for each classroom from first standard to 10th standard to teach them appropriate media literacy. That means, okay, for a sixth standard student, you can give them education about, if you use social media, then what are the harms of social media, what are not like what are the benefits of social media, how can you judge authentic information. That is something that people lack, and it's
Yeah.
not their fault completely. Because there is overwhelming information. So what information actually you trust? In 2 to 5 seconds you make a decision to whether to trust that information or not. So how to judge authentic information, how to trust information online, that should be given to students at appropriate ages. And then things work. And then the third option that I gave is like, obviously it's not going to happen, but still the thing is that, why do you think people use social media? One reason is of course the addictive part and the algorithm part, but the other is also a lack of other social options where they won't feel overwhelmed, or they will get some kind of reward out of it. Because again, if you go back to our time, social media was in moderation, but remember what we did after schools. Remember what we did when we have holidays. We went and played in open spaces. There is a lack of open spaces in our cities now. Kids can't just meet their friends in a park and play football anymore, or kids can't just go out there and have a walk on footpath, because like, yeah, it's unsafe. You have to really be privileged to live in a very high society to be allowed to go down and play on a ground or do
Yeah.
cycling or something like that. So it's going to happen if you are living in a neighborhood that is not yet ready for uh, or do not have access to these activities and safety. Kids are going to stay home and really look at television. What else are they going to do anyways?
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of factors. Like, this is a very broad factor, so I won't focus on this, but the true focus will be on, yeah, like moderation, media literacy, different things, different platform for kids, like what we discussed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Like maybe it's just the lack of efforts that are actually being put into solving something like this. And
Yeah.
as I said earlier, maybe banning is the uh, easy way out to ensure that it doesn't happen. But that is not going to stop it. You know that kids in India are just going to find out different ways to still be on social media, and it's really not that difficult because a kid is not allowed to create an account, but they can still use their parents' phone to access through their account. So, I mean, at the end of the day, until an actual solution is found, this still going to continue happening. So yeah, I don't think this is going to
Yeah.
help. Maybe it will curb the bad effects to a certain extent, but it's not the final
Yeah,
solution.
because banning will always help kids who are like on the edge,
Yeah.
and to people who are on this. So if you ban cigarettes and alcohol, there will be certain amount of people who will not do it because they are either like too afraid of going illegally, they don't have access to illegal stuff, they don't have friends or relatives or families who will give them that access, so they will not do it. But usually in a lenient country, if you have enough money and like a bit privilege, you will kind of have access to these illegal streams, so it won't matter as much. But yeah, but anyways, okay, but yeah, so it was a good episode. And I think I get fascinated by these systems. When we talk about a potential solution, there are two ways, like there, and these two ways are very extreme, but we kind of talk about how the systems can get implemented slowly. And one extreme is that completely ban the thing, and the other thing is no, we need research and other things, and then we will look at. And often the criticism for this solution is there, you don't offer a solution, you just wait for it and nothing happens. But maybe talking about systems is more important. And all right, I think this was the episode. If you found this episode valuable, to subscribe, and we will meet until next time.